Hello, Basi. How are you?
Yeah, hello, hi, man. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. That's nice to hear.
Well,
How's
sorry?
how is everything going?
Oh, it has been good. Just one of the players that I've been working with for the last 7 months just signed with Kimki in EuroLeague, so pretty
Yeah, I
excited.
saw that. Yeah. Well, so we'll just wait like a couple minutes to let other people join the Instagram live, and then we can get started.
Yeah, sure.
As the Instagram lives that I usually do with other players last around 20-25 minutes,
Okay.
that's the kind of live that I'm going to be doing with you today. I have like multiple questions, so I hope that also the people from anywhere can ask their questions too.
Okay,
So
sounds good. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for all types of questions.
okay, so yeah, I have mainly questions about how you work with professional basketball players and
Hmm.
how you increase their performance. So this is how the questions are going to be. So I think that yeah, we can start the Instagram live now. First of all, I want you to explain to people what do you work on, and I mean, how do you define your job?
So I'm just keeping it simple. I'm basketball and sports performance coach. So
Hmm?
I'm not calling myself NBA, EuroLeague skills trainer or whatever individual coach. No,
Hmm?
to me it's just all your basketball coach or your strength coach or your nutritionist. So what I'm doing now, I'm working with players individually, but at the
Hmm?
same time, if I get an opportunity to work within a team, I'll still be doing something like that, plus maybe doing something more related to offense, defense, or whatever the head coach wants me to do. And
Hmm?
so, what I do now is one, trying to increase players' efficiency on offense and defense on the court. And I'm doing it based on my knowledge in strength training plus basketball. So I do both basketball and strength training, and what I will do with each player will depend on player's needs. So if that's someone who's hiring me to be his personal coach and he wants me to cover it all, I'll do it all, starting from basketball training and all the way down to figuring out just simple little recovery protocols, how to make sure players recovered for the next session or for the next game. Or if that's a player who wants me just to consult him or her during the season, I'll just do video breakdown for that particular player, and it will be only on basketball.
When did you decide to start working on this area?
So first, I wanted to play professionally, and since I started playing basketball, I think at 14, I already knew that I want to be a professional basketball player.
Hmm?
So, long story short, I ended up playing in college in States for 3 years, and then I played professionally for 1.5 year in
Hmm?
Belarus, Mexico, and Ecuador. And while I was doing that, I was always looking up at NBA players, and they every summer, plenty of NBA players do like basketball camps. And I had a chance when I was in college. I had a chance to assist Squeaky Johnson. He played for Pelicans for Rockets, so I was able to assist him during his camp. And at that moment, I already knew that me being a professional player, I want to do something like that in Russia to kind of like to give back to the community, to give back to the kids, to those who want to play professionally, and maybe see myself as their inspiration. And it all started from there. I just started doing just some small kind of like visits to schools, visits to Olympic sports schools where I would do a couple of the training sessions.
Yeah.
And then by the time I was playing professionally in 2015, by then I already had, I want to say about maybe three players that were in the top league and about four or five other players who were playing professionally, whom I've been working with. And so by the time I was done playing professionally, I already had a group of players who wanted to keep working with me. And so it all started from there.
Hmm? Where did you go in college?
Oh, it was everywhere. I went to prep school in Georgia
Hmm?
for 3 months. So this my story is a little bit complicated. My parents first wanted me to get a degree in Russia,
Hmm?
so I studied in Diplomatic Academy of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I couldn't. I would have to graduate first before my parents would let me to go to States to chase my basketball dreams. And
Hmm?
so we study 5 years. It's a little bit more than bachelor's degree. And by my fifth year, the last semester that starts in late February, it's kind of like you're preparing that final paper and you're preparing for the exams. So I had 3 months that were kind of like off where you don't have classes to go to. And at
Hmm?
that time, I figured out if I want to go to States, I'll have to find at least a prep school because I'm 5'11", I want to say 5'10" and a half without shoes.
Hmm?
And if somebody gets me a scholarship, it's not going to be like me sending the videos from Russia. I'll have to be there. And so I found a prep school where I could go for only, I came there January 23rd and think our last game. So we played only like 5 weeks or something like that. And then got canceled a couple of tournaments.
Hmm?
So this was my first experience. It was Beacon Prep Academy in Georgia. Then it was Mesa Community College in Arizona. Then I transferred to Tacoma Community College in Washington, and after that, I went to Houston Tennessee University in Austin. But
Yeah,
it was
that's a long.
a lot of travel.
Yeah. Well, and how is it to work with professional basketball players? Like dealing with them every single day.
To me, it's just normal. It's just they are just to me they're normal persons. All of them are having just like us. All of them are having two eyes, nose, two hands,
Yeah.
two legs. So they're just normal people, and that's their job to be efficient on the court. And my job to make sure I'm maxing out their potential. Doesn't matter if that's a player who's completely committed, 100% ready to go 24/7, or if that's someone who's kind of like in save energy mode where he's only ready to practice maybe once every 3 days. Oh, once every 3 days or twice a week extra. So it
Hmm?
doesn't matter what player commitment would be. It's my job to make sure I'm maxing out his potential during our time together.
And how did this opportunity to start working with professional basketball players came to you?
So just like I said, starting with junior pro teams, I would do like quick clinics or visits to the teams that I knew the head coaches,
Hmm?
and I would do 1 or 2 sessions. After that, I was an assistant in one of the training camps in Russia, where my friend he was the main coach, and just I guess just the players whom I was assisting, they liked what I did, they liked
Hmm?
my commitment and the passion that I had, and they wanted to work with me more. And so actually, the player who signed in Kimki today, he was the one who brought me as his personal coach for the first time. That was the time when I was coming from Ecuador, and he asked me. He was rehabbing after his ACL surgery. That was his second ACL surgery, and he needed someone who would be with him for 3 months, all the way until he gets cleared to be on the court.
Yeah.
So right after I come back home from Ecuador, within a week, I get a call from him, and we never met. And he heard about me doing good work with the players, and so he wanted to give me a try and bring me in, and all the way until he's back 100%. And so I was with him for 3.5 months. And after that, those opportunities just started coming. Obviously, after that, I moved to China
Yeah.
for 2.5 years. And first, I was the director of one of the youth basketball academies near Shanghai.
Hmm?
I've been working there for 4 months, but I knew this is not something I enjoy working with the kids. If you get I don't know, if you get someone who's 14, committed, and wants to play professionally, yes, I'm all in. I'm all in. But if this is just something where you're doing basketball training for fun, this is not what I'm ready to do on a daily basis. It's just not what I enjoy It's
Yeah.
not what I enjoy as much as I enjoy developing the players who have a goal. And
Okay.
so I've been developing youth academy for 4 months, and I was looking at the other opportunities because I know if I want to work with professional players in China, that's the same thing. They want to see me first. They want to meet me in person.
Mm.
And after those 4 months, I got a deal. I would do NBA breakdowns for Chinese TV. And it's basically if James Harden does a step back yesterday, today, when the next game is streamed live in a halftime, there will be 4 to 5 minute video of me explaining how he did it and giving some drills where the people will understand how they can work on that.
Okay.
And so by the time I was doing those breakdowns, I knew that Aaron Jackson is coming to China. He's going to
Mm.
play there. And I just figured out the way how I can get in touch with him. We set one workout, then we worked out again. I think we worked out like 3 times or so. And after that, I figured out how I can be more helpful to him. And I knew that doing the video breakdown for him individually will be something that not that many people do. And I started doing it for free. Like he didn't ask me for it. And the first feedback was something like, "Oh, okay, thank you. I got it. I'll take a look at that." And then after 3 videos, he's giving me some feedback like, "Hey, I'm thinking here I would better do this, here, that. And what are your thoughts on this?" And I want to say after 2 months, I get a message, something like, I know you have a contract with the company, but whenever it expires, I would want you to be my main coach. So would you want to do that?
Mm.
And then and
Yeah,
then
that sounds
that's all.
incredible. Yeah. Well, just to make sure, are the players the ones who contact you, or are the clubs?
Usually players.
Usually players.
Yeah, usually
Okay.
it's usually either players or agents, or I contact the players myself. And
Mm.
it's
Uh,
even now where I think I'm working with like more than 40 players now,
mm.
maybe even more. I don't count them.
Okay.
But even now, I'm still trying to. If I see someone who I see potential, and then I'm thinking, oh man, he can definitely benefit from me helping him out. I'll just
Mm.
reach out and say, like, if that's a young player, I'll reach out and say, what's something that I see that should be improved, and what are my thoughts on it. And then I'll just say, if you think this may be helpful, you can just ask me. I'll give you more feedback. And
Mm.
sometimes players say, "Oh, I don't have time for that," or others will say, "Oh, yeah, can you tell me more about this?" And
Mm.
so whenever somebody's saying, "I don't have time for that," I'll make sure I have a screenshot of that message. So in 3 years, when that player comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm ready to work,"
Yeah.
and he'll be playing in like second division or even third division, I'll be showing him the message like, "You see, that's what happened 3 years ago.
10 years later,
That
like yeah.
that's how you expect him to be in the top league. There's no point."
Mm. Okay. Well, I want to know now how is a regular practice with a professional basketball player, the ones that you usually work with.
So it would all start way before we get on the court. And whenever I
Mm.
know whom I'm working with, first I will ask this player some questions that will include what at this moment, if that's you're talking about in season work.
Yeah.
So if that's in season, I'll ask how he feels, where he feels very confident, at what spots he doesn't feel confident at all,
Mm.
and if playing time depends on those uncomfortable spots. So I want to make sure I know what player is good at, what is something he has to improve, and what is something he has to improve right now.
Mm.
So that it's just when working with the players in season, it's a matter of how you can give results right now because
Yeah.
we don't have a month, we don't have 2 months. Usually, when I'm traveling during the season, it's I go to see 1 or 2 players, and I go there for 2 days or one practice or one week. The max would be probably 10 days. And so before I even come, I want to make sure I get maximal information that I can get about the player and how I can be helpful. because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise we're just wasting time. And knowing that my work will be extra work, I don't want to waste any minutes of our workout. So if we only have 60 minutes or 75 minutes in the gym daily, I want to use all 75 minutes and maybe one extra minute, 76, just so by the time I get back to St. Petersburg, where I'm based now, I'll be like, oh, okay, I did 100%. I did the max that I could do. But if we take just the basic work, it will be something to warm up with. And depending on the player, it can either be ball handling, it can either be some simple muscle activation work, some mobility work, or some light core work. This is something that we'll start with for sure. Then it will be shooting close range shots to make sure we're working on the form.
Mm-hmm.
And this is doesn't matter what the player will say. Even if the player says, "Hey, I'm feeling comfortable in my shot," I'll still pull up the games where the player had bad percentage, and I'll see why his percentage was low, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
think, what are the ways for me how we can improve the warm up, just so
Yeah.
he's building those good habits where it's in the game. Those good habits will be in his mind, and
Mm-hmm.
so it will definitely be form shooting in the beginning, um, and then all the close range shots. And after that, we'll just extend the range. And then this is, I would say, if the warm up will say ball handling or muscle activation, that will take maybe 10 minutes. Shooting will
Mm-hmm.
take about 25. And let's say we have 70 minutes total. So that's 10, 25. We're already past 35 minutes. After that, we'll work on one of the main goals that he has. So shooting is one. That's a point guard. It will most likely be something passing off the screen or transition passing, and so I'll incorporate some shooting in it. So we'll spend another 15 minutes focusing on the passing, and the finishers will be again depending on what the player needs. It can either be, the finisher of the workout. It can either be some paint finishes, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do some low intensity where we would focus more on the footwork to make sure player's nervous system is working more than his body. Because if that's in season, I can't go 100% with the player because he has one or two practices per day and he has from 1 to 3 games per week. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going with him 100% with the speed, by the next day he'll probably be done, and by the next day he's coming to see me, he'll say, oh man, I'm tired, what can we
Yep.
do? And so not to burn the player out right away. This is why the last 20 minutes of the workouts will most likely be low intensity, where we're focusing on the footwork and
Mm-hmm.
challenging that nervous system to understand new moving patterns. But if that's someone who's not playing much or who's playing below 15 minutes, or a young player, then we will definitely add something high intensity to it. So it may be the same finishing, but with a higher intensity. But the same thing, I wouldn't want the player to go very intense and
Mm-hmm.
just make him run. I will still think of either game actions that the team has, or I'll simply ask if I don't have access to either the head coach or the team. I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask the player in what situations he usually receives the ball, or how he usually cuts, or if he's playing defense, at what spots he usually play defense. So I'll try to incorporate that in the drills.
Hmm. Well, that's how you train with basketball players, but I want to know how good does the players accept your advices when you're training with them?
How good the players.
How good the players accept your advices to get
Oh,
better?
well, that's my job. That's my
Yeah.
job. So it's definitely, if that's someone who's a veteran,
Hmm.
then if that's someone who's a veteran, it won't be like me giving the advice and the player will listen a lot. This
Hmm.
is at the point where I need to build relationships where it's two-way street, where I get the feedback. And the older the player is, the more I would listen to his feedback, and the more I'll expect him or her to talk first, and then to see how I can, what I can advise. But whenever it's a young player, then it's usually easy because one, I'm asking the player, where you want to play in 2 years. So if you are, let's say you're 17, you're
Hmm.
playing in a junior professional level, and I'm asking where you want to be by 20, and the player says, I want to be in EuroLeague or I want to be in VTB. I'm like, okay, makes sense. And then we set the goals. I'm saying you need to do this, this, and this. Players accept it. And so by the time we get on the court and he's not listening to my advice, this is my question to him. Now, how are you going to reach those three goals, and how are you going to get to VTB or EuroLeague if you're not doing that? So it's simple with the younger players. With the older, it's my job to find out what the player needs. Sometimes it's more not the advice necessarily on X's and O's or on shooting, but maybe it's advice on where you need to push someone, or just ask him how he feels, or just ask him some questions not even related to basketball.
Hmm. And who's the player who has surprised you the most?
I don't have that player. Really.
Hmm.
I haven't had that player yet.
Okay.
When I
Um,
do, I'll definitely make my mark. So next time we do that, next time we do the live, I already know the answer to this question.
all right. Okay, sounds good. Which is the best part of working as a personal trainer?
Just seeing the player's progress,
Hmm?
and getting those messages after where, hey, have you seen that? I didn't know how I did it, but it felt great.
Hmm?
This is the best, but the worst that I'm experiencing, and that's this is one of the reasons why I would want to be a part of a team, is that feeling when you're within the team, you're working towards one goal.
Hmm?
You're working towards winning a championship or making playoffs. You're working towards something. Whenever you are working as a coach who's more like consultants, where you're
Yeah.
not within the team, your goal is to help as many players as you can. And so here it's, if I helped 30 players this season, okay, I may be content with that, and I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I helped 30 players. But then in my mind, because I'm that type of relentless coach, I'll be like, oh man, I helped only 30. How can I do better? I haven't done a good job. What I need to do better? So this
Hmm?
is something that is a little bit hard for me, kind of like
Yeah.
to pace myself.
Well, this is a more personal question.
Yep, go for it.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah, sorry, we have a bad connection. Keep going.
Yeah, you said this is more of a personal question,
No,
so
I was going to say that the following question that I was going to do, it was going to be a more personal question, but I mean the live stream is not very good, so you
oh,
could keep going with your answer.
I already forgotten what I was talking about.
Okay,
So
never
you're
mind.
good.
Uh, so I wanted to know now, like on a personal level, which is your main goal for the in a short time? Where do you see yourself in a short time?
Um, I see myself helping as many players as I can, like I said before, and where it's going to be, we'll see. It's hard to guess now. It may be on a professional team, it may be independently, like I'm doing it now. So I don't even know what part of the world. Like last year, exactly 1 year ago, I lived in Miami. Now I'm living in St. Petersburg. 2 years ago, it was Beijing, China. 3 years ago, Beijing, China. 4 years ago, Shanghai.
That's incredible.
5 years ago, it was Mexico. 6 years ago, it was Texas. 7 years ago, it was Tacoma. So I'm not even guessing.
Hmm. Okay, well,
Yeah,
that sounds
I'm just trying to
incredible.
think of where I'm at now and trying to maximize that moment that I have now.
Okay. Well, you have a very fluent English. How important do you think that it is the use of English in basketball right now?
It's definitely important, and this is one thing that I'm telling the coaches, the Russian coaches who keep messaging me when I'm doing the interviews with American coaches. They're like, uh, "My girlfriend is messaging here. Stop counting places I missed."
Mm.
But yeah, this is something that I'm telling the Russian coaches who are asking me, "Hey, are you going to translate the interview?" And I'm saying, "I don't have 28 hours in a day. It's only 24. I can't do it all. It's up to you
Yeah.
to do the work. If you learn English, you get so much more information." And
Mm.
I understand that the language part was something that really helped me a lot. So I'm speaking pretty similarly Russian, English, and Spanish. All these three,
Mm.
I just and I why I say similarly because I keep forgetting the words in all these three languages. So if
Mm.
you ask me something in Russian, I'll be like, "Oh man, I forgot. I know how to say it in English or Spanish, but Russian I completely forget." And these three I'm fluent. In Chinese, I'm able to conduct the basketball practice.
Mm.
And I understand if I could speak, let's say, five languages, it'll open even more doors for me.
Yeah,
And
true.
so now, game being more international, and now us having social media where you can do Zoom call or Instagram live with anybody in the world, I think you're just doing yourself disservice if you at least not learning English.
Mm.
So knowing English and being able to speak it, this is I want to say it's like a must. Like those apps on iPhone or on Android that are
Yeah,
there
the
already.
basics.
Like yeah, English should be
Well,
there
I,
too.
I wanted to tell you, you said that you're fluent in Spanish too?
Yeah.
So that's incredible. Like, how did you learn Spanish? Because you moved to Mexico, or?
Now, when I was studying in diplomatic academy, I
Mhm.
passed English exam almost perfectly, and I would have to choose another foreign language as the main one. And I
Mhm.
had options in between German, French, Spanish, and Arabic. And
Okay.
so I wanted it to be Spanish because I don't know, I just liked the language and I heard some reggaeton music
Mhm.
and it just it was easy choice for me.
Okay. Well, have you worked with any player whose main language is Spanish, or not yet?
Professional, not yet. I did a camp when I lived in Miami. I did a camp with Coach Vecchio.
Mhm.
He's a famous Argentinian coach. He was a scout for Detroit Pistons. He worked in South America a lot.
Yeah.
And he did a camp where he brings 50 players from South America who are high school age and who want to go either to high school or college in States.
Mhm.
And so I was one of his coaches. And it's the same thing. I started there as kind of like just as a guest coach. I was helping out. Then they asked me to conduct a couple of the practices. And then next camp, I was full time member of their camp. And so the whole everything there was in Spanish. So I really enjoyed it. I haven't had a professional player yet, but I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, the question that I asked you before, but as we had a bad connection, you couldn't hear it. I want to know, like, for the people who has no access for a personal trainer like you, which advice could you give them to be a better player?
So number one is identify what your strengths are
Hmm?
and what your weaknesses are. Because if you don't know that, or if you can't evaluate yourself realistically, it's hard for you to know what you should work on.
Yeah.
If this is still hard for you to know what you're good at and what you're bad at least try to ask your coach or try to ask your friends whom you're close with, just so they can give you some advice on how they see you on the court. It doesn't necessarily have to be where you're saying, hey, what I'm good at or what I'm bad at. You can
Hmm?
find out the ways asking, like, what do you think I should do on the court? Or what are you most confident in me doing? Like, if I'm shooting three, are you confident that you don't need to go to rebound or you want to rebound 100% because that's going to be a miss? Just you
Yeah.
can figure out how to ask different people those questions to know the answers. So this is definitely number one. Number two is identify your goal, know where you want to be in 1, 2 years, 3 years, and
Mhm.
then build those small goals, kind of like where you're moving just like on an escalator when you're taking extra steps. And it's the same thing now. Like I said, remember I told you that I keep forgetting the words. So the
Mhm.
same thing now. I remember it's escalera in Espanol, but I don't
Yeah,
remember it in English.
there's.
So yes, there's. And
Okay.
so yeah, know your goals and figure out how you can achieve them.
Mhm.
And then three, this is going to be a weird advice, but visualize more. So often we think that the more you can do on the court, the better.
Yeah.
Where sometimes you do something really hard, but you don't even focus on it. Like you just going hard and that's it. You have nothing in your mind. I would take you going slow, even walking with your eyes closed, but understanding, okay, I got a screen on the left wing. I'm passing it. I'm making a snake move. I see a guy opening the corner, the help coming. I'm making a pass, or nobody's coming. I'm attacking on the drive. I see another help coming. I make a pass or finish contested.
Mhm.
Just visualize more, and this will help you gain more progress because there are plenty of books on mental training, and there were plenty of studies that show that for our brain, it's hard to identify whether something happened in the reality or this is something you were imagining for a long time. So if I visualized myself doing step back three in practice, and I never done that in practice, and I've been
Mhm.
visualizing that for 2 months, in half a year, I won't remember whether it happened really in reality or this is something that was only in my mind. And I had that with one of the younger players who plays in EuroLeague. That's what he said. He was like, "Oh, have you seen me jabbing at that guy when I caught the ball in the mid post?" I'm like,
Mhm.
"No." He's like, "Oh, maybe that was me visualizing. I don't completely understand it now." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the trick." And so if you can do this is one great example of what I'm talking about visualization that you may experience now, and that's from George Mumford's book. He was the mental performance coach for Chicago Bulls and for LA Lakers. He's been working
Yeah.
with Phil Jackson, and he's given the example where he gets to a class and he tells them, okay, imagine I have a wall,
Mhm.
and a wall made of concrete, let's say, and I got my hand like this, and I'm kind of like scratching the wall, but I'm not even scratching it. What do you feel? And then he looks whenever he's explaining this action to people in the classroom, some of them will be like, kind of like get that feeling, that weird feeling where you almost like try to experience it yourself. Now, this is a perfect explanation how visualization works.
Yeah.
We just did it. It's not something. It's not like rocket science. It's simple, pretty self-explanatory, and by you doing that, experiencing that, you will probably understand that visualization is definitely a big part of your progress. And
Mhm.
so these would be top three. Know your strengths, weaknesses, set the goals, and figure out how you can achieve them. And three, visualize.
Well, I'm sure that the people who's watching the live or will watch it later, this is a very useful
Yeah, hopefully.
resource to get better. Yeah. And I'm going to move forward for my last questions. I want to know how important is the mechanic or the form of shooting in a player?
Well, it's important, but if you're working with somebody who's playing professionally, who's, let's say, 32 or even 25 and playing in professional level, and he's shooting 35 or
Hmm?
33% from three, this is definitely not something that I'll be messing up with.
Hmm?
Just because the player have been shooting like that for 10 plus years, and it's just His muscle memory is pretty good already, pretty established. And for me, it will take too much to break that habit. So I'm looking at the other things, how I can make the shot more efficient.
Hmm.
And I actually did a couple of the clinics during the pandemic in English, and I think last week in Russian,
Hmm.
where I'm talking about how you can increase your shooting efficiency without really changing the mechanics. So I'm not obsessed with your elbow being in 90 degrees and all these details, elbow looking at the basket. The only
Hmm.
thing, if we're talking about these mechanics like textbook mechanics, the only thing I would want would be your ball located on the hand like this. So
Hmm.
whenever your hand is turned to the side, and the ball will probably fall to the side. So this is one thing that I would look at. But here again, if I see players shooting like that, and I see the ball kind of like rolling to the side, one thing that I would do is put that thumb a little bit wider, just because whenever you're like that,
Hmm.
that's what we have here. But whenever you get your thumb wider, it's just your arm occupies more space on the ball, and just so the ball will be more stable
Obviously.
in the hand. So these
Yeah.
are just small details that you may change during the season, and I wouldn't even focus on like changing. If you're shooting, let's say you're shooting like that, let's say it's like that, I'll
Yeah.
try to look at the different things where that will be related to physics. For example, the farther I have the ball, the harder
Hmm.
it is to control it. Or whenever I'm raising it from here, whenever I'm raising the ball close to body, I'm
Hmm.
applying already all the energy towards the basket. Whenever I'm doing it like that, I'm bringing the ball back. I'll have to stop all this energy and then apply it again to the basket. So to
Hmm.
me, mechanics are important, but there are things that are more important. And you know, the here I got a funny story when I did that clinic for Russian coaches. So it was for 2 hours, and by the end, I'm asking like, "Do you have any questions? If you do, feel free to ask." And one of the coaches looking at me like that and asking, "I have a question. It's really surprising to me that you haven't even talked about that it's important to keep the follow through and close your wrist."
Hmm.
And I'm like, and he's asking, why? And I'm just giving him, I'm a little bit shocked, and I'm like, oh, really? I haven't talked about that. And I'm like, well, number one is I forgot about it. I forgot about it just because it's you already know that close your wrist and hold your follow through. Everybody, if you don't have to be a basketball coach to say close your wrist and hold the follow through. My
Yeah.
dad has never played basketball, and he will say that too. Close your wrist and hold the follow through.
Hmm.
And so they're way in there. That's one. And number two, there are things that are more important than that. And here, the interesting story to finish up on the mechanics. Last year, I started to work. I started working with a 70-year-old big man from Russia, and he's now in States. He's now in high school in States, and the number one thing that we wanted to work on was his shooting.
Hmm.
And his shot was kind of like that, and he wouldn't even extend the elbow. And
Yeah.
so whenever we come in, first I had only 3 workouts with him because I didn't live in St. Petersburg and I just came for a couple of days.
Hmm.
And we having the first workout, I'm looking at his shot and I'm like, I'm telling him, hey Boris, I won't be that smart coach if I say extend your elbow, because you're not blind. You can see. You understand
Hmm.
that you're not extending the elbow. Whatever I tell you, that is going to be okay. Everybody will see that. Everybody will notice it. Now,
Hmm.
this is if I say that, I'm talking about the problem. My job is to give a player a solution. So I'm looking at his shot and I'm thinking, okay, why he's not extending the elbow? What I need to add to his shot or what I need to take out of his shot, what I need to tell this player to make sure he's extending the elbow,
Okay.
or maybe at least not flexing that much, but maybe extending a little bit more, just by the time within 6 months or 12 months he can extend that elbow.
Hmm.
And funny thing, I want to say 15 months after, so we worked for 8 months. We worked maybe 10 times total, or maybe 12 times total. The rest was on him.
Hmm.
And then the last 4 months, we've been working almost daily, getting him ready for high school. And after 15 months, there were only the times where he can extend his elbow, but not always. He can extend it from a 3 point line,
Hmm.
mid range, not yet. And so I'm telling him, like, Boris, you see, this is not one day, this is not a week. There's no microwave success. There's no microwave results. It takes some time.
Yeah.
Even let's say if within another year you can fully extend the elbow and you feel confident and you feel comfortable with it, then yeah, we should stick it. But if you're feeling more stable and you're making much more shots when you're like this,
Hmm.
when you're keeping it like this, why should we change it? Let's see
True.
it. Let's look at other details how we can make your shot better.
Hmm. Well, that's true. Well, I finished with my all my questions. I have to say thank you so much for being with me today. I
Oh, you're
appreciate it a
welcome.
lot. I'm sure that this is going to help a lot for the coaches who follows me or follows you, so that they can show it to their players. And yes, I've said thank you so much for being with me today. I'll split both of the lives that we have done and
Okay,
make it a whole video. So thank you so much, Basi,
sounds
for
good. Thank you, Jaime. All right. All right. Have a good day.